Hi, in this video, I'm joined by Tomas George, and Tomas George is going to give us some of his top tips for producing your music at home. So if you're a DIY artist and you write and produce your own music from home, you're not in a commercial studio, then this video will help you, will tool you with some tips that will help you produce your own music at home, but still get great results. So fire away, Tomas.
Well, sounds really obvious, but do your research. You can't just go on Amazon and buy the best-selling microphone. It's not necessarily going to suit your needs. You need to think about, if you're recording, for example, where are you going to be recording? What type of microphone you need is going to really depend on where you're recording. For example, a really sensitive condenser microphone like a U87 might sound amazing if you're in a treated room. However, if you're in an untreated room, you want to get a dynamic microphone, for example. So you need to do your research. You need to find out where you're recording. And also, don't just do microphones and audio interfaces. Room treatment is so important. It also depends on what you're recording. Are you mixing music? Do you want to have a nice dead room to record vocals or voiceover? So you have to do your research. You have to, geek up, find out, the best equipment for your needs. And ideally, if you have a friend or you know someone that's really knowledgeable about this, just ask them.
Yeah, right, because you read online about the best, but I would advocate that you start out with a small amount of gear, like you have a small locker, and you go from there, and then you actually start to appreciate the differences between all of these bits of kit.
SM58 is a fantastic mic if you're in a bad room. Right. So, but if you want to be a professional voiceover artist, for example, or if you want to record a really famous singer, probably wouldn't use a 58, but it's a great one to start with. Why not? My next tip is get a decent audio interface. What happens all of the time is people spend loads of money on a microphone, and then they get a really cheap audio interface, and the preamp sounds terrible. So it sounds really obvious if you've been into this for a while, but if you're brand new, you might not know which one to get. You may just get the budget audio interface. Right. I don't want to name any brands, but there's certain brands that are really noisy. So if you crank the dial all the way up, you can get some hiss. And there's certain things you can get. Like I think, Chris, you've got this little mini kind of preamp thing that plugs into the microphone. It's called a FET head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that gives you like a boost of gain. So if you're using a dynamic microphone, like the one I'm using right now, this is a RE20, and you're using an SM7B. Sometimes there isn't enough gain. You do get audio interfaces, like the one I'm using right now is the Apogee Duets. So this has got loads of gain, so it's great for dynamic mics. But if you're using an audio interface that hasn't got that much gain, you may need some kind of booster like the FET head you've got there or the Cloud Lifter. So my point is don't skimp on audio interfaces. A great preamp or a great audio interface can go a long way for recording. And my other tip is don't buy too much equipment. I've done this before. I've got loads of equipment that I don't actually use, just sat in the cupboard doing nothing. I need to sell it. There's loads of stuff I have sold. Shiny object syndrome, you think because a certain company's come out with a new microphone or a new pair of headphones, it's going to be the best. But really, let's keep it simple. Decent mic, decent preamp or audio interface, decent pair of monitors, decent headphones. That's kind of it. And obviously room treatment. But don't buy all these bits of gear that you don't need because it can be a waste of money. If you're not professional and you're not making money from this, it can be very, very expensive.
Definitely. And would you say the same philosophy applies to the software side of things?
I think it's important to get a pro level DAW, so digital audio workstation like Logic Pro 10, Ableton Live, FL Studio, Studio One, Pro Tools, Cubase. There's loads of them. So get pro level one. Don't just record in GarageBand, for example, because it can be limited. So be prepared to buy something like Logic Pro, which is I think about $200, which is amazing. And you can do great stuff just in the software with the stock plugins. There's certain things like, I think it's Slate do something like around $10 a month, and you get access to all their plugins. So if you're just making an album, you could just use that for a few months and not have to buy all the plugins individually. But you don't necessarily need all the plugins. I've seen some people have tons and tons of plugins, but they only really use a handful. For me personally, I only use a few different third-party plugins, but I know how to use them really well.
Right.
That goes back to my other point, geek up, study the plugins. I was using compressors for a very long time before I actually knew what a compressor did. So be prepared to read the manual, watch the videos, learn how to like use the bits of gear, because it will make a big difference. So if you're using a compressor and you're just using one of the presets, which I did at the beginning of my music production journey, it's going to limit you. You really want to know what all the different dials and stuff do. I know it can be a little tedious at times, but it will make a big difference.
Do your homework, right?
Exactly, yeah. Geek up, do your homework, yeah, study. Sounds obvious, but yeah, like I said, I was producing music for a very long time before I knew the kind of ins and outs of all the different plugins.
That makes sense. Do you have any lasting tips for people producing at home?
I would say collaborate. One of the main ways I learned to produce music was collaborating with different band members, different producers, and you can kind of learn their workflow, see what they do. So you got to go. I used to go to like loads of meetups, loads of like different like events and stuff for electronic producers. So you can meet people there, you can collaborate there. If you're a lot younger, you might be at school or university. There may be other people interested in electronic music or music production or recording or whatever you're doing. Collaborate with them, and yeah, that can really help speed up your workflow. Even online, like Chris and I don't live in the same city, but we collaborate all the time, constantly. So there's loads of stuff you can do online as well. It's not just in person.
There's some really great tips there, Thomas. Thank you so much for coming on. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.